is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Welcome to the Morgan Man Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Stacy Morgan. Here on the Morgan Man Sports Podcast, we talk Atlanta Falcons news, pre-game predictions, and all other news surrounding the Atlanta Falcons.
Touchdown, Atlanta!
Also on the podcast, we talk Call of Duty League, Esports, covering Roster Mania, major predictions, COD Champs, player trades, and much more to get you ready for every single CDL weekend.
Scuff goes through, and Scuff snaps, wins the one-on-one in Optic with the reverse sweep.
If that sounds good with you, put on your Falcons jersey, grab your gaming headset, and let's get this show started. What is going on, you guys? I'm your host, Stacy Morgan, and you are listening to the Morgan Man Sports Podcast here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on the Belly Up Sports YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, today we got a jam-packed show talking about the Atlanta Falcons and congratulating Optic Texas for winning the 2025 Call of Duty League Championship. So without any further delay, let's go to get straight into today's action. Alright guys, so Optic Texas has done the unthinkable and went from an 18-game losing streak to winning Call of Duty Champs. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Optic Texas shocked the entire esports community, world, whatever you want to call it, and beat the Vancouver Surge, who made it to the grand finals along with them, 5-3 in the grand finals. And ladies and gentlemen, this was just unexpected. Optic Texas was a team expected to honestly make it to at least top 5, but came out on top at number 1 and winning COD Champs, despite being the 7th best team in the entire franchise this past season. So 5-3 goes to Optic Texas. Vancouver Surge definitely put up a heck of a fight. Let's not discourage that right there, because Vancouver, they tied the series at one time 2-2, and then it was just history after that. So back-to-back COD Champs for Optic Texas, and this Call of Duty right here had a new viewership record. This comes from Daniel T. Say, thank you to our fans, thank you to our players and teams, thank you to our partners and watch parties. This is an awesome milestone hit and a great way to cap off the 2025 season, and that being 353,525 viewers at the peak for COD Champs. Some said that actually beat CSGO. So when you're starting to beat CSGO, you're doing something right. And this season right here definitely was one of the better seasons for Call of Duty. I'm not going to sit here and say the minors tournaments did anything to help it, but the viewership was engaged. Like, there was actual storylines, like Los Angeles C's versus Atlanta FaZe. Who's going to battle for that number 1 spot? Optic, of course, contributed to a lot of this as well. Being, is Optic going to make COD Champs this year? On and so forth. So there was a lot of storylines in for this past season right here, and it kept off with Optic, of all teams, to win COD Champs back to back. Now the question is remaining, now since we got the Esports World Cup coming up I believe this month right here, or it might be next month. Is Optic gonna win the Esports World Cup, or are we gonna see Atlanta FaZe win it just like they did last year? That's gonna be the question moving forward. There's a lot of questions moving forward that we do not have the answers to right now. Is Atlanta FaZe going to have a huge mix-up? Have we seen the final game between the trio, Celium, Abizi, and Simp? Is Draza going to the Vegas Falcons? That's a rumor already starting to pop up. Is Optic going to stay with this same squad with Mercules and Hook and Shotzi Dashi? Whoever. There's a lot of questions at stake. Is LA Thieves going to stay with this same roster? highly doubt it, but who knows? But at the end of the day, we crowned a new champion. Well, actually, the same champion from last year, Optic Texas. So, congratulations to the boys in the green and black. Well deserved after a season that honestly was going to be written off. And on to the next season, which would be Black Ops 7, with hopefully Atlanta Falcons winning it. So that's already my early predictions for COD Champs next year. But we won't get too far and down that rabbit hole. But we do want to talk about the Atlanta Falcons. So the Atlanta Falcons, we're into training camp season now, ladies and gentlemen. We're just honestly, 3 weeks away? Yeah, 3 weeks away from the training camp opening up. And then, of course, July 31st, we got football with the Los Angeles Chargers facing off against the Detroit Lions in the Hall of Fame game. So I'm super excited about it. I hope you guys are as well. But we're not a Lions or Chargers podcast right here. We are an Atlanta Falcons podcast. So we're going to start off with the first article right here coming from SportsIllustrated.com. PFF predicts the Atlanta Falcons to snap playoff drought. The Atlanta Falcons have been predicted to get over the hump and make the playoffs because of 3 key players on the stat. Perhaps this is a year for the Atlanta Falcons to break through. PFF's Mason Cameron named them among teams who are positioned to make the playoffs in 2025 after missing out last season. Cameron attributed a favorable schedule as a major factor in helping the Atlanta Falcons get over the hump. PFF projects the Falcons to win 8 games and give them a 39% chance of making the playoffs. Along with the schedule, the 2 biggest reasons Cameron believes in the Atlanta Falcons are quarterback Michael Penix Jr. and first-round draft selections Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. Cameron liked that the Falcons were aggressive in the pursuit of the pass rushers this past NFL draft. And I quote, "The biggest change Atlanta made this offseason was its aggressiveness approach to revamping the pass rush. Drafting 2 talented players in the first round in Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr., Cameron writes the pair will undoubtedly breathe new life into the pass rush until that ranked 30th offense PFF grade 59.0 and 31st in pass rush win rate of 35.2%, Cameron wrote. The Falcons were 6-3 of the first place in the NFC South roughly halfway through the season. Last year, unfortunately, Atlanta went 2-6 to close out the season. However, a lot of that was due to the quarterback situation with Kirk Cousins' poor performance and hidden injury. Penix took over in Week 15 against the New York Giants, and since Week 16 has had big-time throw rates of 9.0 and the 3rd best in the NFL. Cameron believes that Penix holds the keys to the Atlanta Falcons' success in 2025, and with an easy schedule and PFF's highest graded supporting cast around him, he thinks he could take Atlanta back to the playoffs. So, guys, this is honestly astonishing right here, especially coming from Sports Illustrated, because a lot of the times PFF and Sports Illustrated, they're anti-Atlanta Falcons, okay? If they could find anything to diss the Atlanta Falcons, they're doing it. And for them to honestly talk highly upon the Atlanta Falcons with the pass rush aggressiveness in the draft and Penix Jr., this is a good sign that the Falcons are right on path to succeeding for future seasons to come. So now there is a little bit of a head scratcher with the kick-in situation for Atlanta Falcons going into training camp. This is an article from ATLAllday.com. Falcons kicker is already on the chopping block ahead of training camp. This is an article written by Nick Halden, from June 30th, 2025. Of course, all these articles will be down in the description below for you guys to check those out. These are my resources for today's podcast. So one of the biggest question marks for the Atlanta Falcons are going into training camp this summer is the uncertainty of Younghoe Koo, our kicker for the Atlanta Falcons. After years of being historically reliable for the franchise, the wheels fell off at the worst possible time. Injuries were blamed for the struggles, and Koo was replaced by Riley Patterson at the end of the 2024 season. It is hard to believe that this is the type of season that didn't get severely damage the veteran's confidence. The position includes the incredible amount of mental stress that Koo had never shown signs of crumbling to before last season. Koo put up the worst season and cost the Atlanta Falcons at times when it mattered the most. With this in mind, the offseason signing of German kicker Lenny Craig is extremely noteworthy and worth keeping an eye on headed into 2025. While the Falcons might be saying all the right things about Koo's future with the team, this signing indicates an eye towards the future. This is justified looking back and just how poorly Koo played down the stretch of last season. Whether it was a chip shot or a longer attempt, it was a guessing game whether or not the veteran could be relied upon. It is important to note that this is in no way indicates that the Falcons are going to cut the proven veteran kicker. It would be the last resort if the Falcons see signs of last year's struggles still present. Craig is an unproven wild card who simply shows that the team is doing what it can to prepare in case there isn't the expected improvement. Whether it was an injury that caused struggles or change in a delivery or simply the mental toll of the position is up to debate. Koo fallen so miserably demanded the Falcons at least go through the motions of bringing in a second option. One that is going to be haunted by the chance to push the veteran kicker and attempt to win a surprise job. Still, most likely, the way that this plans out is Koo returning to form, putting an outlier of a 2024 season behind him. Needless to say, it's a storyline the Falcons fans will want to follow throughout this summer. And I agree, 100%. Koo definitely had a lot of shots that should have been made and win the Falcons a lot more games, I should say. And Koo just did not deliver like he has been before. Now, granted, this is just one season that Koo just did not put up numbers. Are we panicking? No. But if he does show these signs again in training camp, and especially throughout the preseason, at the start of August, then there are going to be concerns moving forward. And then that's when you're going to replace him with a German kicker. But no doubtly, I think Koo is just putting this behind him. He's healthy now, has had a great all season. And I'm excited for Koo, but if not, it's just time to move on. So now we are in the last segment of today's podcast, ladies and gentlemen, for the Atlanta Falcons, and that is happy birthday to the Atlanta Falcons. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the Atlanta Falcons are celebrating its birthday, and there's 5 reasons to be excited about for 2025. This is an article on AtlantaFalcons.com. Of course, everything will be linked down below for you guys to check it out. Flower Branch, Georgia. Happy 60th birthday to the Atlanta Falcons. On this day, June 30th, in 1965, Rankin M. Smith Sr. was granted ownership of the team by former NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle. In the 6 decades since their founding, the Falcons have compiled a 398, 512, and 6 regular season record and a 10 and 14 postseason record across 14 playoff appearances. Current owner Arthur Blank purchased the Falcons in 2002. General Manager Terry Fontenot joined in 2021, and head coach Raheem Morris arrived in 2024. In honor of the Falcons entering another year of existence, below are 5 reasons to be excited for in this upcoming season. Number 1 is the starting position for Michael Penix Jr. It is very possible that a new era has begun for Atlanta with the quarterback Michael Penix Jr. becoming the starter. The Falcons selected Penix with the number 8th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft. The original plan was for him to develop behind veteran Kirk Cousins, who signed a 4-year deal a month prior to the event. But that went away, when the Falcons benched Cousins in favor of the rookie in Week 16. Atlanta's plan for its young quarterback was to be sped up. Penix showed a lot of potential when starting in the final 3 games of the 2024 season, completing 5 of his 100 passes attempts for 737 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. The completion rate and multiple picks may initially raise concern. However, originally the backup Penix never really worked with the first team offense last year, so they were getting to know one another's quirks and preferences on the fly. Imagine what Penix can do after a full offseason and preseason with his fellow starters. Number 2 is the offense is full of weapons. So this is no doubtly, I covered this last week with the wide receiver position. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, combined of, over 2,263 yards. Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, definitely great running backs. You got Kyle Pitts. So Penix has definitely got a lot of people to throw to, and he's got a great O-line that's going to protect him while also doing that. And if the O-line does, crumble under pressure, Penix, he's like Michael Vick. He's going to run. So there's no worries on this offense, I do believe, this season. I think this offense is definitely primed to really put pressure on the opposing defense and score a lot of touchdowns and gain a lot of yardage. And finally, number 3 is a defense features youth and experience. So the Falcons were not happy with how the defense performed last season, placing 23rd in total yards allowed. Therefore, leadership went to work in the offseason to improve personnel through the draft and free agency. The result now is a deeper unit with a variety of experience. There's a good chunk of veteran players like inside linebacker Caden Ellis, defensive lineman Morgan Fox, edge rusher Leonard Floyd, and safety Jesse Bates III, who will undoubtedly have an elevated role this season. There's also a large number of players still on their rookie contracts, such as 4 draft picks inside linebacker J.D. Bernard, defensive tackle Rook Oriaro, however you say that, sorry for butchering your name, and outside linebacker Arnold Epeneki. If I'm pronouncing it right, again, sorry for butchering your name. Who will likely see the significant playing time, the range bodies, well for not only the present, but the future as well. What will be interesting to see is how guys are rotated and who shares the field. Some of these guys in the last 4 years draft class are going to be really helpful in us getting better and in some of the things that we can do now. More said. Then being able to add this year's, you're constantly trying to grow your team. But you're definitely confident you're going to do a lot better on that side of the ball this year. So, yeah, there's a lot of things right here. Raheem Morris enters his 2nd year of in charge. The Atlanta Falcons definitely bringing a lot of experience from the LA Rams, winning the Super Bowl with them. And, yeah, Raheem Morris knows the Atlanta Falcons inside and out. And he knows what the city is craving so desperately. And finally, the 5th thing is the pass rush is the priority. So the pass rush definitely has been the priority since the Vic Beasley season, when Vic Beasley went on a historic run with the most sacks in Atlanta Falcons history. And we have not seen that since then, the 2016 season. So we went 10 years without seeing any significant pass rush improvements since Vic Beasley days. So hopefully we're getting it this year, ladies and gentlemen, with our recent signings of, the first round selections of this year's draft and just so much more. So I'm excited for it, ladies and gentlemen. So happy 60th birthday to the Atlanta Falcons. Definitely, we need to be on the right side of this next 60 years and just really start winning some games, ladies and gentlemen. I'm super excited for it. I really am. And let's start winning. You gotta start winning and get that overall record to where it's just even, at least with that 502 losses, or 512. Excuse me. So, but with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I know this was a lengthy podcast episode right here, but we had a lot to discuss today. So I do apologize for a lot of the stumbles, or whatever. Trying to get through all these articles and in preparation for you guys to get this week's information out by 6 a.m. by the time you are listening to this. So if you did enjoy today's information and podcast episode, ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button on YouTube. Consider subscribing to the Belly Up Sports YouTube page, where we will be the home of your Atlanta Falcons coverage through training camp and all throughout the 2025-26 NFL season. Also consider subscribing and following us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast from. And until then, I, Stacy Morgan, catch you all later. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.